Okay, so I've seen a lot of videos on how to install the XStation onto a PU18 board, but I have not seen any on how to properly install one on a PU8 board. If you're not familiar, the XStation is an optical drive emulator for the PlayStation 1. It only works on late revision PU8s and PU18 motherboards. It will not work on PU20 or above. They are working on a board, so that will work in a PU7 or an early PU8, but I have yet to see an American SCPH-1001 that is not a late PU8. So chances are, if you have what's called the Audiophile Edition PlayStation 1, you can easily identify that because it has the composite AV on the back. Chances are you have a late PU8. You can always verify it with the motherboard. These are a little bit easier to install because there are less legs to lift on the CD controller chip. So before you start, the first thing you'll want to do is head over to Castlemania Games, and they have links to get the installation guides. And they also have the software. And you'll also want to download and print off the test page. So what this does is this tells you what points on the motherboard go to what points on the ribbon connector. This is very important to verify because you have to have signal going from the motherboard to the quick solder board to the ribbon cable. Now, some people will say, oh, well, you can test it from the quick solder board, and you can, but that doesn't verify the signal path from the motherboard to the ribbon cable. So test from the motherboard to the ribbon cable. Don't worry about testing from the quick solder board, because if you can go from A to B, then the middleman here that's hijacking all the signals is functioning properly. Overall, the install is a little bit tedious. Like I said, you have to lift some legs on a controller chip, and you also have to remove some filters and some SMD resistors, which I do have a rework station, but I don't use hot air. To me, it's just a little bit easier to touch it. If you have the right tools, you can do it with a soldering iron. Make sure you have a fine tip and make sure that it's not too hot. So we're going to open the case, and we're going to find the CXD 2510Q. And basically what that is the CD, the chip that controls the CD drive. And you're hijacking signals off of this by lifting the legs. I think one's reset, one's a seek. There's a couple other things in there that it does too. So luckily there's only 4 legs to lift. But before we get anything started, the first thing you need to do, of course, is open up your PlayStation. It's pretty easy to do. The original model PlayStation only has 5 screws on the bottom. It's all Phillips head. I usually would lay a cloth down, but I have a less yellowed case I'm going to swap the top with, and I'm just going to put this top on my junker whenever I get done with it. So, but I got a pretty good deal on this system. There was a lot. The guy had tossed it up on Facebook Marketplace. He had this, and God, there was like 20 games, 5 memory cards, 2 controllers, Game Shark, and long story short, he's going through a divorce and just needed some quick cash. So I went ahead and bought it off of him. This has been fired up. The CD drive works fine, but optical drive is going to work. The SD card reader is going to work better and last a heck of a lot longer. As we all know, optical drives do eventually die. So, screws are out, you lift the top very carefully, and all that is just, that's the cover for the serial port. Don't be like me and leave a game in. Good thing it's just a burner game, nothing too expensive. So you put the top off. And we'll put the CD over here. Okay, so whenever you open it up, you have the power supply over here. Of course, your optical drive, and then you have some RF shielding. This one's a little bit dusty, but I'm not seeing any kind of corrosion or anything particularly alarming here. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to disconnect the optical drive. There's a power cord, and then there's a ribbon cable. Ribbon cable, just very carefully grasp it and gently pull it out of the socket. You don't want to rip it out because you could break the leads, and if the optical drive's good, you can probably get about 30 bucks out of it on eBay on the resale market, and this one is good. Whenever you're pulling out the power, be very careful to lift gently. If you pull too hard, you can rip the power connector out of the board, which, given what we're doing to this, shouldn't hurt anything. But here again, you don't want to break any wires, you don't want to break any connectors, because if these are good, you can resell these, and there are people who will buy them. It's always good to have spare parts. Overall, that's a pretty clean drive. Motor looks good, no dust. There's no cake in the white lithium grease. Sled still has good lubrication on it, so that's a keeper right there. We'll put that off to the side. This is the main power connector right here. Again, gently remove it. If you do anything to this, you pretty much just screwed the pooch on the whole project. So very gently pull. Should weasel its way right out there. There we go. Alright. So the great thing about Sony is that on all Sony, on this one, you probably can't see it, but there's little arrows on the screws. So you know which screws you're supposed to take out on which part of the board. And these are pretty self-explanatory. Whenever you're putting it back together, just remember that the gold screws go inside and the black screws go outside. There's 3 short screws here on the top of the RF shielding for the controller ports. Here again, pretty self-explanatory because it sits up higher. Take that little piece of RF shielding off. Controller port has 1 ribbon cable. It's located here. Again, firmly grasp, gently pull. Should come right up. That slides right off, so there's the controller port. It's pretty clean. Now take off the main shielding. Now, whenever you're removing the main shielding, this tape over here actually wraps around to the bottom. Try not to sever that, because what this does is it grounds the RF shielding to each other. If you do end up tearing the tape, unless you totally botch your install, chances are you'll be fine. But if you can keep it intact, it's always a good idea. So when those screws come out, you take this and you very gently lift it, and it basically folds in half. I kind of like to prop it up. And then there's 3 more screws in here that are along the back by the connectors. You can't miss them. They're brass screws. Okay. This motherboard's not too bad. There's no corrosion, a little bit of dust, but you'll have that. Okay. So you take that out, and then you very gently pull out the motherboard. And that's what a PlayStation motherboard looks like. Now, the way you can tell that's a PU8 late is this PU8 code right there. If it ends in 23, you're good. I think the early ones end in like 11 or something like that. It tells you in the install guide. So we're done with this for now. We'll just blow some of the dust off of here. It's a pretty clean looking board, actually. So if you've ever had the disc, the lid switch go bad, that's it right there. And if you flip the board over, there's 4 points right here. And you can bridge two of those points together, and then it'll always read closed, and you can actually wire a switch to it, which I had to do on another one. This one, as far as I can tell, that switch actually looks pretty good. So we're going to go ahead and turn on our soldering iron. Don't get it screaming hot. I usually keep mine around 420. We'll let it come up to temperature. So the chip we're going to be focusing on is going to be this one right here. There's 4 legs we're going to have to lift on it, which might sound kind of tedious, but if you have the right tools, it's not too hard. Just remember to gently apply heat to the leg, and if you have one of these little tools here, that little needle, you can just kind of get right behind it and gently pull it up. Or you can use the hook tool too, which I'll probably end up using in this case. If for some reason this stuff's too thick, you can always get yourself a little pin like this and just stick it behind the leg, which is what I'm going to end up doing because this is a little bit too thick for what I'm using. Okay, so our soldering irons come up to temperature. We'll just go ahead and make sure that the tip's fine. Okay. Tip is melting solder, so we're good there. Just kind of do that. And it don't look too bad. Okay, so let's get our directions, which I put over here. Okay, so according to directions, I need to lift pin 69, 66, 63, and 44. 69 and 66 are going to be on the top, and then 63 and 44 are going to be on this side. So let's see if I can zoom in here on the chip. Maybe a little bit. Okay. So we got our guide, got this. And where did I put my needle? There's my needle. Alright. So I need pin 44, which is 4 over. Okay, so pin 44 is 1, 2, 3, 4 in. Take our needle, touch a little heat to it, and gently pry. Okay, that one's up. And we'll just take our needle and we'll gently do this. Okay. So what you want to do is you want to lift the leg up, and I usually try to bend it all the way up. And straighten it out with your fingernail. I wouldn't break it if I were you, but I don't think it'll hurt anything if you do break it because you are disabling the chip. But the biggest thing is you just want to make sure that it's not touching any other pins on there. Okay, 63 is the second from the top over here. Again, put your pen here, general like, apply a little heat, and bend. Okay. Go under, and up like that. Right. Okay. Okay, that one's been up. Then I need to do 66 and 69. So we're just going to turn this around like this. Come over here. Okay. Let's see, 66 is 1 in. Okay. Okay, and then 2 over from that one, be 69. Okay, this last one's a little tricky because it's near a resistor, but here again, just patience and steady hand. That's all you need. Leg, lift it up, and there we go. So, let's see if we can get it here. Stupid camera. So, all 4 legs are lifted on that chip. That's really the hardest part of it, to be honest with you guys. It's not too overly complicated. So we got that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to clean that off with a little touch of alcohol. And I have some industrial strength alcohol over here. This stuff is 99%. But just a little touch, and very gently just kind of go like that, go like that. Plus the nice thing about alcohol is you can shine up the pins and it helps you see if there's any bridges. If you think there's a bridge, you can actually test that with a multimeter, but in this case I am not seeing any bridging at all, so we're good here. If you want to, you can lay down some electrical tape around that too. I usually choose not to, but some people do. Okay, so now we need to find the oscillating crystal, which is, let's see here. Okay, so the oscillating crystal is right here. And there's two little teeny tiny things you gotta lift off of here. There's the resistor and the filter. Again, not too hard if you're very, very careful. I'll go ahead and zoom out here a little bit. Oop, wrong way. Zoom out. Some of these smaller components can be a little bit trickier to get off, but here again, it's just lifting stuff. If you lift the pad, you're fine, because it's not going to be needed anymore. You can always re-hit it with a little solder. And let's see, we'll get the filter off of there. Okay, and the filter's off. Like I said, if you want to, just to make sure you still got pads, can't touch it. Alright. So, those two little parts are done. And let's see, what's next? Let's see, next step is on the bottom side of the board. Okay. So on the bottom side of the board, there's three little teeny tiny resistors you gotta let go of, and they are located right in here. And the last time I did this, last time I did it, I wasn't exactly so gentle, and I ripped one of the pads off. which wasn't the most horrible thing in the world, but it could have been. So this time we're being a little bit more careful with our iron here. That one's being kind of a biznatch. There we go. That one. And once you get one side off, the rest of it should be pretty easy. You just got to hit it with the iron and flick it off carefully. Okay. Then I got one more. Okay, so we got all three of those off. This time I did not rip the pad off or evaporate a via or any of that fun stuff, so that's all good. And then now it's time to solder on the quick solder board. Which is kind of a neat piece of kit, to be honest with you. I was thoroughly impressed with this whenever I got a hold of it. The one for the PU8 looks like this. And you pretty much just have to line it up just right. So we need to make sure that we're hitting the right things. Okay, so this goes here. It's right there. Okay. You do really want to make sure that your solder points are lined up properly with the solder points on the board, because if you don't, it can create problems later on down the line. And the last thing you want whenever you're installing this is problems. Trust me. Okay, so what I like to do is I like to solder a couple little tacks. Nothing too major. For tack soldering, you do not want to use flux. Okay? So kind of tack it here. And we'll run a tack here. Okay. So it looks like our tacks are good. Alright, now, here comes the really important part. Flux. Flux is your friend. There are numerous little points here. Let's see if I can zoom in on them here. Give you an idea. So it might be kind of hard to see, but there's numerous little solder points on there, and each one of those needs to have some flux on it. Because what flux does is, one, it helps your solder flow and you get a lot stronger connection. Two, it helps your solder flow to places where you need solder. Keeps your solder from going on the board, bridging, all that fun stuff that can really make your project go pear-shaped really, really fast. So, just go ahead and we'll twist that off. Need to be careful with the alcohol here. And we'll do our little needle nose here. Okay. And basically everywhere there's a solder joint, you just want to put a little tiny bit of flux paste. Okay, so once you have your flux on, pretty much you just kind of go around your board and start soldering your joints on. Okay. I'm pretty sure that there is almost right there. That's the one that got me last time. Okay. Touch a little solder joint there. And I think this one here needs a little bit of a touch. So you should pretty much have a nice little bead of solder everywhere there's a solder joint, which I'm pretty sure we do. Okay. So now that's all nice and soldered in. We'll zoom out here. Okay, and then I think the last thing we need to do is we need to solder the clock. Which, if I remember correctly, really isn't that hard. So there's that. Yeah, okay. Okay. Again, just come on. Get that sheath off. Okay. Get your wire here. sometimes you accidentally get your wire a little bit too long. And you just gotta make sure that it's not touching anything else that it shouldn't be touching. So you gotta get here and bend it a little bit. Then you heat it, and you just pull it back a touch, like so. Okay, so everything should be good, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to do our continuity test, which really isn't that hard. Get my multimeter. I like to have the beep, and it's pretty much just a walk around of, you know, what goes where. It's like this here. Oh, no. Okay. Then we'll go here to pin 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8. Alright, so we have continuity there. And let's see, stick this hole here like that. 1, 18, 11. Okay. Uh, 11. Okay. Then we'll come over here on the back side of here and pin 3. Okay. And it's basically just working your way around the board. You know, making sure you got stuff where it needs to be. And let's see, 14, 4, and 15. So here. Okay, so we're all good there. Now, let's see, there's one here that I think goes to pin 7. Got good continuity there. Okay, this one here goes to 6. 1, 2, 3. Okay. This side here goes to 9. Okay, we're good there. Almost there, guys. Almost there. This pin here should go to 19. Okay, we got that. And then, let's see. This pin goes to 13. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Good there. Then I have 5. Let's see. Five, okay. One next to it. 2, 3, 4. Let's go 16, 20, 19, 18, 16. Okay. And then I got what? Pin 20 and pin 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and then the one next to it should go to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Alright. So we have continuity clear across the board. So, in theory, this should work. And it should work rather well. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to get the case put back together. And actually, before we do that, so the board's solid, which is fantastic. Hardest part's done. Okay? Hardest part is done. Just going to take a little bit of alcohol here. Just a little bit. And kind of just go over our joints where the flux was. Clean up some of the excess flux that was on there. That beautiful. Okay. A little bit there. A little bit there. Okay. So, we're done with the alcohol. Now, there is one last step that needs to be done before I can put this back into the PlayStation. And that is, on the actual PlayStation itself, we're going to go ahead and lift the motherboard shielding out. Very carefully. There is a nub here that needs to be cut out. And that nub is where? Nub is right here. You need to take just a pear or something and cut that flush and make it all pretty. So, I'm going to use... Got a pair of dikes here. Not the greatest things on the planet, but to get the job done. And that's basically it. Just kind of go in there, trim it up a little bit. If you want to hit it with a drum, you can. Just try to make it fine as possible. What this is so that you don't end up crushing the ribbon cable on the XStation, because that would be very, very bad. Very bad indeed. Actually, I think I will hit that with the Dremel real quick, just to make it smooth as possible. With the Dremel tool, just whatever you do, use the lowest speed because you don't want to melt the plastic. There again, bad things. And I only talk about bad things because I have a lot of experience with them. If there's a mistake that can be made, I've probably done it. So, just keep that in mind whenever I talk. Okay. Screw that in. And do this. Have to bear with me, I gotta get this thing plugged in. Okay. Like I said, always use the absolute lowest setting whenever you're dealing with plastics, because you don't want to melt it. that's good enough for what we're doing. Okay. So, now that that's all done, we need the ribbon cable that we're going to use to install the XStation. And so this particular one, I had damaged the SD reader card and I was able to fix it, which is kind of a nice surprise. So it works just as good as new. So whenever you're doing it, make sure that the white side is facing up and the blue side is facing up. And you just kind of slide that in here. And it locks in place. Just kind of inspect it, make sure it's nice and even. And we'll put the motherboard protector back in. Like so. Okay. And whenever you're doing the motherboard, you want to make sure that your flex cable comes out and to the left. Be very careful that you don't pinch it. And then whenever you take the top and you slide it back on, you want to make sure the flex cable goes through this opening right here. But first, see, I always do this. I usually test it first, but I have absolutely no reason to believe that this is not going to work and function properly. So, there's 3 screws you screw back in. There's 2 by the serial port, and then there's 1 that's right in between the audio and video jacks. You put those 3 in first. Like I said, there's little gold arrows on the board that point to those 3 points, so it's kind of idiot proof. And you just make sure that's all situated in there nice and neat. Kind of like that. Sometimes this board doesn't like to set right, so you just kind of wiggle it. Just be careful you don't damage anything. Like I said, place the cable so it stays inside of this slot right here. Make sure everything's nice and flush. And then put your screws back in. And as you can tell, I mean, I did this in under an hour. There's people out there that are charging $90 to $100 for this install. I can understand why. It is work, it is tedious, but it's not $100 tedious. And whenever I figure in my prices, so there's a website that they sell these. They're already pre-made. No controller, no cables, just a system. And I think they're charging $220, $250. And I would easily sell this for $200 with the cables and 1 controller. Probably toss in a memory card for, I'll get you a 64 gig for, I don't know, let's say $30. You know, that would include a little bit of extra labor, which we won't go into on what exactly that labor would be. But, you know, let's just say it would be a plug-and-play experience for you. And let's get the shielding and controller port. Putting these things back together is real quick. This is actually my second favorite system to work on, to be honest with you. The only system I prefer to work on other than PlayStation is a Dreamcast. Dreamcasts are completely modular. They are amazing to work on. They're pretty easy to repair. And And a Dreamcast is actually a really good system to learn how to do troubleshooting, repairs, tracing voltages, signals, things like that, because of the way it's built. Sega really made an incredible system whenever they designed that, and it's just a damn shame that it didn't survive. You know, it was a great system, but this one is laid out pretty good. It's a little bit hard to get to certain parts of it. That's the right screw. Why won't you go in? There it goes. Okay. Let me pop this here. Now, I'm going to say, I know this isn't the best video there is. I don't have the right equipment to do really killer videos like some of your more established installers like Voltaire. Voltaire's a good guy, though. You know, I don't know him personally, but I've seen his videos, I've seen his services. His prices are fair, you know, for what he does. He does this by trade, so, you know, he can get away with charging a little bit extra, but I would say if you're looking for somebody to do your installs, go through Voltaire. There's another quote-unquote certified installer that I'm not going to mention their name, but let's just say that hack is the proper term for them to be using. And I do not like them very much. I don't like the quality of their installs. I've seen them. They're sloppy. I do better work. You know, not to toot my own horn, but I think I do better work. So anyway, here's the board. I do have the feet installed. They're not perfect because this is the first one I did. You have to trim the feet for a PU8 case that come with it. But basically, just make sure you slip it on that's grounded. Take your cable, again, blue side up. Make sure it's locked in there properly. Snap it in. And then all you gotta do is put the top on, and it's ready to go. So I'm going to put the top on, stick a card in it, and whenever we come back, we will have the moment of truth for the XStation. Okay, guys, so we're going to do the moment of truth here. I've loaded my own personal SD card into this, which has basically everything you could ever possibly want for a PlayStation on it. And see what happens. If you have that black screen, you're good to go. And go ahead and do one of my favorite games. I love Xevious 3DG. We'll go ahead and we'll do a little bit of gameplay on it just to verify that everything works just right. Sad part is I used to be really, really awesome at this game. Not so much anymore. Boom. So, there you go, guys. That's how you install, test, verify an XStation installation on a Sony PU8 Lite version motherboard. Hopefully you've learned something from this video, and this particular system will be up for sale soon. So until then, gamers, have fun.